Hello everyone! Thank you for watching this video about peer review. This was a collaborative effort between the UNLV Writing Center and the UNLV English Department created for CCSD concurrent enrollment students meant to introduce you to peer review at a university level. In this video, we'll cover what peer review is and why we do it, what makes good feedback, and how to give effective feedback. There are also two short activities at the end of this video for you to practice identifying good elements of peer review feedback. First, let's talk about what peer review is. There are two ways of defining peer review. You may have heard of peer-reviewed articles or studies before in class or possibly in the news. That type of peer review is the process by which something proposed, as for research or publication, is evaluated by a group of experts in an appropriate field. In other words, when a researcher wants to publish or present their work, other experts review it to evaluate the quality of it before it can be shared more broadly. That probably sounds intimidating, but that isn't the type of peer review we are discussing in this video. The type of peer review students do is different from the peer review experts do. For us, peer review is a collaborative process in which peers, in this case your classmates, exchange drafts of their work and give feedback to each other with the intention of improving their writing. This means you'll exchange your draft of an essay with a classmate and give comments on their writing. Why do we peer review? There are a handful of reasons. As you know, writing is a process, and part of that process is getting your ideas down on paper, even if they're not as clear or organized as you'd like them to be. Peer review is a great chance to get feedback as you're writing your paper that you might have questions on or are unsure about. It also helps you see how someone else, who doesn't know as much as you do about the topic of your paper, understands the information you're presenting to them. You might find out that there are places that you thought were clear but aren't to someone else. Basically, we peer review to give and receive help from our peers. The idea is to give feedback on a piece of writing with the aim of helping your classmate improve. And you'll receive the same help on your writing from them in return. Maybe more importantly, giving feedback on someone else's writing will make you a better writer. Being able to critically examine a piece of writing to point out what is working well, find places for improvement, or identify how the writer isn't fulfilling the assignment prompt or meeting the audience's expectations are invaluable skills. Often, it's easier to review someone else's writing to make those observations, but then once you have done that, you can look at your own writing more critically to catch similar issues. In short, the peer review process is meant to make everyone a better writer. You learn to critically examine writing, you give and receive feedback that helps you and your classmate think about your writing from a new perspective, and you learn how to receive and apply feedback as you revise your paper, all of which helps you develop your writing processes. Peer review also helps to build an environment of trust and collaboration between yourself and your classmates. Because you spend a lot of time together in class, peer review can create an environment where you feel comfortable sharing your work and learning from one another. What does the process of peer review look like? This will largely depend on your teacher, but there are some things that we can depend upon. First, whether you peer review in person or online, this will be a one-to-one process. You may be asked to review more than one paper, but you'll focus on one at a time and will give feedback to each classmate verbally, in writing, or a combination of both. Second, you'll usually be reviewing rough drafts, not completed essays. Remember, these are works in progress. There may be confusing organization or strange logic. That's okay, but it's your responsibility to point this out. Keep in mind that your peer might not feel confident in their writing or have sections that are missing. That's okay, but it's your responsibility to point this out. The point of peer review is to meet your peer's writing where it is and give helpful but gentle feedback. Let's go through the 4 steps of peer review you can follow to make sure you're giving the best possible feedback. The first step of giving feedback is to actually read the paper. This might seem like a silly thing for us to have to say, but many students feel the need to jump past this step. It is better to be slow and thorough. Take your time and read through the draft at least once. As you go, take notes, highlight, or even draw on the page. This will help you be able to explain your feedback to your classmates, and it will give them something tangible to look back on when they're revising. Step 2 is to read the prompt and address it in your feedback. Again, this might seem like an obvious step for some, but you'd be surprised at how many writers misinterpret the prompt and don't receive feedback that lets them know they are missing something that the instructor will expect to see. Step 3 is to give specific and actionable feedback. We'll go deeper on what that means and how to do it in just a few minutes, But basically, you want your classmate to be able to understand what you notice in their writing and how to revise based on your observation. Step 4 is to give praise. Praise, when specific and actionable, can often be as helpful as critical feedback. It can point to what your classmate is doing right so they can repeat it in the future, and it helps build their confidence. We mentioned that your feedback should be specific and actionable. Have you ever received feedback from a friend or classmate that was vague? Maybe they just told you that they liked your essay but had nothing else to add. Maybe they told you that you should fix something but couldn't articulate what it was. That's not very helpful feedback. Let's consider the type of feedback you do and don't want to receive. First, what feedback don't you want to receive? Offering vague feedback. Comments like needs improvement or this is awkward, revise can be difficult for your classmate to interpret what exactly you think isn't working, and even more difficult for them to execute a plan for what and how to revise. Not giving rationale for your feedback. Even if you say specifically what is or isn't working, if your classmate doesn't know why, that can also make it hard for them to decide how to revise and know what to do the next time they write. For example, saying that you like a paragraph and giving no reason for why is not specific enough and does not give your peers something to replicate in the future. Focusing on grammar when more significant observations should be made. Grammar and spelling are important, but you're reviewing a rough draft, so there might be bigger, more important observations to make. Imagine you spend 10 minutes fixing grammar mistakes in one paragraph, but when you talk to your peer about how you don't see a connection to their main idea in it, they decide to delete that entire paragraph. That's 10 minutes you could have used to give other feedback. So what kind of feedback do you want? You want feedback that does the opposite of what we said in the previous slide. You should offer feedback that is specific, give rationale when you give a comment, and focus on significant observations rather than grammar. Most importantly, keep specificity in mind when peer reviewing. Specific feedback allows you to clearly see what is or isn't working, gives you actionable items while drafting and editing, and allows you to see patterns in your writing. Similarly, you want to know why something you are doing well is working, so you know when and why to replicate it. So having rationale for why you give a comment on your peers' papers makes your feedback more useful. Lastly, you'll want feedback on big ideas, not small grammar or spelling errors, because those will have a bigger impact on your paper. Big picture can mean organization, argument building, or source use. Now that we kind of know what we're looking for, let's talk about how to read through a paper and give feedback. The UNLV Writing Center has adopted a model you can follow to give descriptive, actionable feedback to help your peers improve. This peer review feedback model asks 4 major questions: what, why, how, and do. Let's break it down. First, ask what. This helps to narrow down what specific area you're giving feedback on. Next, why. Why is it working or not working? Explain the reasons for your observation. Be specific here. The more thorough your explanation, the easier it will be for your peer to address your feedback. Consider how. What knowledge does the writer need so they know how to act? In other words, what definitions or explanations can help the writer make an informed decision about how to write or revise? Lastly, do. What can your peers do about it? Identify a specific task or suggest a specific strategy for your classmate to apply the information provided in the how component. Use this feedback model to specify what in the paper you're giving feedback on, explain why it is or isn't working, offer the knowledge that helps them know how to improve, and offer suggestions on what to do to go about those improvements. This model can be used to give critique as well as praise. Let's look at an example. Reading can be a surprisingly vigorous activity, often requiring more physical exertion than one might expect. The true value of reading lies in its ability to transport us to new worlds and introduce us to diverse perspectives. Through engaging with different ideas and narratives, reading expands our understanding of ourselves and the world around us, fostering empathy and critical thinking skills. First, we ask ourselves what. What do you notice about this paragraph? The topic sentence makes it seem like the paragraph will be about how reading is physically hard, but the rest of the paragraph actually talks about the value of reading. Looking at the same passage, we ask ourselves, why? Why is it working or not working? In this case, why isn't the topic sentence working? That jump in topic creates confusion for me as a reader. Then we ask ourselves, how? What knowledge does the writer need so they know how to act? In this case, to know how to do something about the topic sentence. The topic sentence of a paragraph is one that sets up what the rest of the paragraph will be about. Finally, we ask ourselves, do. What can your peer do about it? What can they do to improve the topic sentence? I think you should either rewrite the topic sentence to introduce the value of reading or rewrite the rest of the paragraph to match the physical exertion of reading info in the topic sentence. Now that you know the model of giving feedback, let's do some activities to get you more comfortable with applying it. On the right side of the slide is an example of a comment given by a peer reviewer. Take a moment, pause the video, and try to identify where in this comment you see the peer reviewer answering the what, why, how, and do questions. Here is what we think the peer reviewer has done in their comment. What? This sentence seems contradictory. Why? Because the first part says that Disney princesses are rarely seen negatively, but the rest of this paragraph revolves around the negatives of the princesses. How? Your paragraph should support your topic sentence. Do. It may make more sense to adjust the sentence or maybe getting straight into how the princesses promote harmful ideas. How did you do? Did you identify each component? Let's try one more activity. Here is a passage from Alex's essay in which she is describing how she learned to speak English. Her peer, Jose, left her a comment that doesn't fit the feedback model. Take a moment and read the passage before we look at Jose's comment. Here is a comment Jose made to Alex about her personal narrative. Jose has made a good observation about the disconnect between the information Alex presents and her point about learning English. However, Jose's comment doesn't follow the feedback model, making his feedback not as effective as it could be. Take a moment, pause the video, and try rewriting the comment to adhere to the feedback model, addressing the what, why, how, and do components. Feel free to toggle back and forth between this slide and the previous. The examples are also available on a handout. Though you might have written something different, this is one option for revising Jose's comment that includes what, why, how, and do. I see how this paragraph relates back to the main ideas of your essay. Maybe build on this reflection to make it even more clear how this point about your parents' experience relates to your own journey learning English. How have their experiences impacted your ambitions? How have they impacted how you view your journey? It's certainly not the only way to comment on Alex's paper, but hopefully in your feedback you picked up on some of the things we noticed. That Jose does not have specific what and do components, and your revisions better guide this writer on their next revision step. Before we wrap up, here's one last reminder about the steps you should take when you're asked to give feedback in a peer review activity. Read the paper thoroughly. Read the prompt and address criteria from it in your feedback. Focus on giving feedback that is specific and actionable, which includes avoiding vague comments like needs revision, adding rationale for your comment, and focusing on significant observations over grammar. Give praise and not just criticism. And as you follow the steps on the previous slide during peer review, remember that answering the what, why, how, and do questions in this model will help you and your classmates write comments that are as clear and helpful as possible. This level of critical thinking and reading of someone else's paper will also help you turn your attention to your own writing and make you a better writer too. Thank you so much for watching our video on peer review. If you would like more writing help alongside your class's peer review session, please make an appointment with us at the Writing Center. We offer a range of consultation options to help you with every part of the writing process. Our website is also full of helpful resources like handouts, and of course, you can also follow us on social media. We post writing tips and reading recommendations. If you would like more practice giving feedback, please see our second video which focuses on applying what you have learned here.